Learning theories provide basis in understanding how people learn and help educators develop an appropriate and applicable learning process to effectively facilitate a better learning. As technology continues to develop over time, it is also crucial for educators to use the best educational framework that would revolutionize the students' learning process and ensure the best education through technology integration. There are three theoretical schools or philosophical framework of educational technology. These are the behaviorism, the cognitivism, and the constructivism.
Behaviorism is developed in the 20th century by John B. Watson in the idea of classical conditioning, wherein it enables how stimulus in the environment produces response. While B.F. Skinner, an American psychologist who developed the theory of operant conditioning, or the idea of behavior that determined by its consequence, Skinner believes that in order to understand behavior, we should look at the causes and the consequences of an action. He uses the positive and negative reinforcement to demonstrate the operant conditioning by placing a rat in a special cage called Skinner box. Through this experiment, Skinner explained how positive reinforcement take into account when the rat learned that food pellets will fall on the surface by pressing the lever bar inside the cage. This leads to the principle of operant conditioning, wherein a behavior followed by reinforcing stimulus results in an increased probability of that behavior to occur in the future. In this experiment, Skinner found out that the rat's behavior generalized to human behavior. For example, if the teacher provides positive reinforcement or rewards, whenever the students perform a desired behavior, they will learn to perform it on their own, and the same concept will be applied on negative reinforcement. In this way, teacher can elicit undesired behavior and decreases the probability of undesired behavior from occurring. Behavior's approach to learning centers around constant repetition of tasks with feedback from the facilitators. A positive reinforcement such as compliments, sign of satisfaction, or applauses can strengthen the desired results of action from the learners, while negative reinforcement can decrease the learner's motivation to learn, and thus making it hard for educators to meet the desired response from the learners. Cognitivism is a learning theory that focuses on the process involved in learning rather than on the observed behavior. Basically, it focuses on the mind and how mental processes thinking. According to Piaget, the principal goal of education is to create men who are capable of doing new things, not simply of repeating what other generations have done. Men who are creative, inventive, and discoverers. Piaget is a Swiss psychologist known for his theory of cognitive development that look at how children's intellectual ability develop throughout childhood. Cognitivism were developed as a reaction to behaviorism. While behaviorism focused on how learning takes place in response to a stimulus, cognitivism is concerned with the role of the mind to process and develop learning. This theory explains how a child constructs a mental model of the world. Piaget's four stages of cognitive development explain the process by which infant and children develops into an individual who can reason and think using his or her own ability. Sensory motor stage starts from birth to 2 years old, with the ability to learn through sensory experiences. During this stage, childs barely talk, so the sensory motor initiates actions without the support of language. That's why mothers get their attention through the use of objects. Pre-operational stage. This starts from 2 to 7 years old, with the ability to learn through mental images and tend to inanimate objects. In this stage, children often use their imaginative and realistic thinking. Teachers in kindergarten, preschool, or second grade often make use of time and space in their classroom to help the children develop their early metacognition skills. Concrete operational stage ranges from 8 to 11 years old. A child becomes more logical and can now understand reversibility. As children continue to elementary school, children were able to use their ability to understand logic and reversibility, so their learning levels deals with math problems, certain science experiments, or even procedures. Lastly, the formal operational stage, from 11 to adulthood. In this stage, the learners learn from abstract situation and no longer dependent on concrete operational experiences. The child also considers different ways of dealing with problems. The child were also able to reason about tangible objects or events and about hypothetical or abstract ones, such as asking what-if questions, scientific experiments, and the more challenging math problems into lifelong learning process. Thus, cognitivism focuses on how the child think and gain knowledge. Constructivism, an approach to learning that holds that people actively construct or make their own knowledge and that reality is determined by the experiences of the learners. In this approach, Bloom created a framework for categorizing educational goals, which is known as Bloom's taxonomy. But this old framework was revised to draw attention to a more dynamic concept of classification and help educators in developing curriculum learning objectives, activities, assessments, and strategies. The Bloom's taxonomy's pyramid is comprised of 6 categories or level of thinking, such as remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Remember means recalling relevant knowledge from long-term memory. Understanding means making sense of what you have learned. Applying means using the gained knowledge in new ways. Analyzing means breaking the concept into parts and understand how each of its parts are related to the other. Evaluating means making judgment based on a set of guidelines. And the highest level of thinking, create, means putting information together in an innovative way. And this framework is evident on every teacher's lesson plan.
And thus favors the idea that learners learn by doing and participating with other people. With these 3 learning theories and framework, we can understand how we learn, gain, and create knowledge.